Now from the Columbia Basin, your local news source, this is iFIBER 1 News, presented in high definition. The #1 source for real-time local news, local sports headlines, and our very own Weather Center forecast covering the entire Columbia Basin. With your iFIBER 1 News team, reporting news in real time as it's happening. From the iFIBER Communications HD broadcast studio in Ephrata, Washington, this is iFIBER 1 News, and it starts now.
Welcome to iFIBER 1 News. I'm Cody Johnson reporting news from around the Columbia Basin for Wednesday, July 31st. Tonight we have a report on how a proposal to solve overcrowding in the Moses Lake School District is drawing resistance, and how a Moses Lake man had his case dismissed for offering to pay back the victims. We'll also tell you what a consultant had to say to Quincy about starting a new fire department, and how a woman killed herself in the Okanagan County Jail. In sports, we have an update on Seahawk wide receiver Percy Harvin, and the NFL made a decision to overhaul the rules for the 2014 Pro Bowl. Our spotlight story tonight is about new vehicles being purchased for Soap Lake's fire and police departments. And we've got the latest weather forecast for the Columbia Basin from the iFIBER 1 Weather Center. Our top story tonight, there is some opposition to a Moses Lake School District plan to alleviate overcrowding by changing attendance at the secondary school. A tentative school board proposal would convert Columbia Basin Secondary School into a middle school and high school. Secondary school students would then go to Moses Lake High School, but the option is not the board's only option. The school board reached a consensus on the overcrowding issue during a recent workshop and decided to have a committee study what facilities are necessary. A hearing will be conducted for the final public comment before the board makes a decision, which could be up for a vote on August 8th at 7 p.m. at the school district boardroom at 1318 West Ivy Street. District administrators presented 4 options to the board in late March following 5 months of gathering information and community input. The current proposals include discontinuing the alternative school program at Columbia Basin and transferring the facility into a middle and high school, move 6th grade students back to elementary schools, and restructuring scheduling at the high school, go to a staggered year-round school schedule, or do nothing. The final decision could involve another attempt to pass a bond. The last attempt was for $115 million to build a high school and 2 elementary schools. The measure missed the 60% supermajority vote needed to pass, with only 50% approval. Alan Hero escaped a trial for a theft charge because he could pay the victim $229,000 immediately. 1 count of theft in the first degree was dismissed against the 43-year-old former owner of John L. Scott Real Estate, who reportedly admitted to taking more than $200,000 from a trust fund. Prosecutors allowed Hero to enter into a diversion program, which required him to pay the money back within 30 minutes of the paperwork being filed, according to Grant County Prosecutor Angus Lee. As long as he doesn't commit any other crimes within 90 days, the charges will be dismissed with prejudice. Lee said the case was rare because Hero had the opportunity to pay the money he owes 2 women. He said, "We talked to the victims and they wanted restitution. What distinguishes this case is we had the rare opportunity to make the victim whole." Lee said this case was different than other cases where people embezzle from companies because one of the victims was an 85-year-old woman without any resources. He could have gone to trial and possibly been able to put Hero in jail for a year, but without any guarantee the victims would receive repayment in a quick manner. Quincy held a special council meeting last night to hear what a consultant had to say about starting their own fire department. Here with the story is Spencer Graham and Cameron Probert.
Quincy should stay with the Grant County Fire District 3, a consultant said Tuesday. Quincy's city council meeting was the culmination of a year-long investigation into forming a city fire department, ending its contract with the Grant County Fire District 3. Don Bivens, an associate with the Emergency Services Consulting International, told the 4 council members that the best option for the city was to continue contracting with the fire district to provide services.
Duplication and inefficiency, you're basically creating a redundant service because you currently have the service capability as it exists today. And as a result of that, that would be inefficient, especially if you were to establish a new fire station in the same footprint of the 5 miles that the existing fire station were located at.
The Oregon-based consulting firm was hired following a dispute between the city and fire district about the contract. Council members Jose Saldana, Paul Worley, and Manuel Guerrero are all in favor of the plan and suggested breaking with District 3 and organizing the city's own fire department. City officials agreed to a $325,000 one-year extension of the contract and hired the consulting firm for $33,255 in order to examine the council's 4 options on the matter. These options include continuing to contract with the city, having the district annex the city, creating a regional fire authority, or starting their own fire department. Bivens also touched on the matter of a potential fire department not being able to afford the professional staff required for the job.
We don't believe that you can afford the same level of career staff. We think it would jack the price up pretty substantially. And that would increase significant reliance on your volunteers, and you would have to come up with a very large pool of volunteers, focusing on and recruiting volunteers for daytime hours, which is your greatest exposure in terms of your staffing availability.
Bivens said continuing with the contract is the easiest for both the district and the city because it involves the least amount of change. For iFIBER 1 News, this is Spencer Graham reporting with Cameron Probert.
Thanks, guys. Each of the people you see here have warrants for their arrest and are wanted by various law enforcement agencies. If you see any of these people, the DOC asks that you not attempt to detain or apprehend them, but to call police. You can also call the Department of Corrections at 509-764-6180 during the day or 509-762-1160 after 5 p.m. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages with the latest from the iFIBER 1 Weather Center, and we've got sports and more news on the way.